When our guest was unable to obtain the level of OBGYN support required during postpartum, she created a 100% vegan superfood postnatal supplement that supports women from day one of postpartum. You are going to love learning how this fab female founder took her mission to support motherhood wellness and turned it into a love-filled product-based business. Stay tuned for the Startup Life Live show. Let's glow, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Startup Life Live show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And look, I raised 4 businesses, one heavily backed by VC funds, another by angel funds. I got to tell you, I know what you are crawling through every single day. And I am in awe and wonder of how you are tapping into your courage and showing up for your business and putting to work all those amazing problem-solving skills that you have. And I'm really grateful that you carved out time to tune in to the Startup Life Live show, because what's going to happen is when you hear other founders' journeys and their stories and how they solved all the problems, you are going to up your founder game. Leveling up is what we have to do as founders, because as we do better, that's right, our businesses will be doing better. A yoo-hoo to folks who are tuning in live, waving at you. And for the wonderful replay watchers, hi, how's it going? And podcast listeners, sending you a big kiss filled with appreciation. If this is your first time hanging around here, please, if you're on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification. And if you're watching on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, please like this video so that we can reach more founders. And if you'd like to stay up on what's happening, I go live twice a week. Please join the Startup Life Live meetup group. This way you'll get the deep dive on who I'm having on the show, and you'll know, wow, that could be something that could help me with my business. So come on and join the Startup Life Live show. Links are in the show notes as well. Few Andelicious announcements for you. And you know I'm always going to be talking about Arlen and her academy. Arlen's Academy, everything you need to know about launching a successful business all in one place. She just uploaded even more information this week. She really is a remarkable leader in our startup ecosystem. Of course, she's the founder of Backstage Capital, and she's got a couple of other businesses, including Hire Runner. And I got to tell you, if you're not following her on Twitter or IG, I'm asking you, get on over there and follow Arlen. She is so generous and she's always sharing wonderful information. Hey, there's a really cool event coming up around the corner here. And it's the Women's Venture Summit. And it brings female funders and female founders together. And the goal of the conference is to boost female founders' access to capital and to grow the number of female investors who invest in female-led startups. So it's a great way to meet other folks and find out, meet funders, or funders can meet founders, learn more about being a funder, learn more about being a founder. It's a great opportunity. And so hop on over and visit their website there to join the Mission to Money Fund Women Change the World. Boy, is that the truth. And if you're pitching and raising capital, you've got to go join the wonderful platform Scroobius. This is human first fundraising. The reason they say that is that not only do they prep you for pitching, they also do help you do a video pitch. And you know how important it is to be aligned with your investors. This is a big decision for your company, and the best way for them to know who you be is through a nice video pitch deck. So they help you with that. And be sure to use Ande15, that's with a capital A, to receive 15% off first tier pricing when using the promo code Ande15. So go get them. And our good friend, Catherine Gray over here at She Angel Investors, she's got a great program called 6 Ways to Fund Your Business, Funding Made Simple for Female Founders. Go for it. Go check that out. And one more little piece of information. Jason Calacanis, he's a great guy, and he's got this wonderful Founder University. It's a 12-week course to build an MVP and get your first users. And it's so supportive when you can do it with a group that's going to hold your feet to the fire. And guess what? It won't cost you a dime if you actually create an MVP and show up each and every week. How cool is that? And if you want to download some amazing documents that I keep stored over here at Buy Me a Coffee /Andy Lyons, hop on over. And then you can maybe buy me a Brevia cappuccino, my favorite coffee. And I often say, all this, yeah, it needs the caffeine to keep glowing. All right. Thank you so much. And founder hugs for everybody. Remember, as a founder, we have to learn to ask for help. Do you need a connection? Do you need an introduction? Do you need advice? What do you need? Let us know. Pop them in the comments later during replay. Anytime, reach out to me, reach out to every guest that I have. We're here to help you rise with your business. Okay. So ask whatever connections. You never know who we know. And remember, if you do it live, I have thousands of replays on this show. So please let us celebrate you. Pop your website, one-liner, URL, and I will get out the clappers and celebrate all your wonderful work in the world. All right, time to introduce our wonderful guest who's joining us today, the one and only, the amazing Lydia Simmons. And she's founder and CEO of M.O.O, Mom's Official Objective, offering a full range of products that have assisted thousands of women worldwide in reducing the harsh effects of nutritional deficiency and hormonal imbalance during motherhood. She's a wife, mother, wisdom seeker, truth teller, teacher of gratitude, mindfulness, and postpartum wellness, and an advocate and spokesperson for maternal equity and healthcare. I'm so delighted to have her on the show. Welcome, Lydia.
Woo-hoo! Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so delighted you're here to share your story and to share your glow and your motherhood and everything that you've learned as a female founder, because we learned so much from each other. And I know you've had an extraordinary, remarkable journey that you were just called and compelled to do, right?
Thank you. Indeed.
Where are you right now? Where are you sitting? What part
I
of the
am
world?
sitting in Austin, Texas,
Yay!
tech capital of the world, new tech capital of the world. I think we're taking over Silicon Valley.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So many great things to know. I don't know if you have participated in Fiesta yet. It's an acronym, FIESTA. It's a great place for founders to support each other. And I think it's Sherry, I want to say Weiner. She's the woman who's running it. It's a great organization in Austin, but you get a lot of support in Austin, right? There's a lot of resources for founders.
There are. It's an incredible startup hub.
Yay, yay, yay. So let's dive into what called you to leave whatever it was you were doing and launch a business. And I'm very curious to find out, did you have any entrepreneur role models in your life? Or were you that person hustling product in third grade? Or were you just so compelled to solve a problem? You're like, I'll do it this way, entrepreneurship. Please share with everyone your origin story.
Well, I was fired, Andy.
There we go.
I was fired. Let's start with that. I think it's always important to just come right out of the gate with that. I was fired after being in an intellectual capital for many years. I was also 6 months postpartum as I was fired. And I had an incredible time in my career, working very hard. I had my husband echoing in the background, you should retire. You should retire. We've met our financial goals. You should retire and just be a mom. And I wanted to do that, but I didn't want that, challenge that I really thrive off of to be lost in my daily work as a mom. I needed more than that. I felt like I could handle it. So I was reluctant to actually leave my job, but I was fired because a higher up in the company said that they heard my baby crying in the background on a call one day. And so talk about hard stabbing, it was one of those things where you can't really refute what's being said, because how can you prove that wasn't the case? But secondly, it's such a harsh thing to say to a mom who's doing incredible work. I was leading a team. We were doing great. Numbers, metrics were all in place. But yet I was fired because a higher up said they could hear my baby crying. Now, I don't have to tell you that wasn't the truth, but the higher up did know that I was a new mom. And it was just a really, really easy and kind of lazy way.
I don't know. That sounds like a lawsuit, in my opinion, having had to sue a company for that labor law. I am so sorry you had to go through that. And
Listen,
of course, that was pre-pandemic. So nowadays,
yes.
when was it?
Isn't that amazing? It was
Yeah.
pre-pandemic. It
Yeah.
was amazing that it happened because shortly after that, the pandemic came into play a couple years later. So that was 2018. A
Yeah.
couple years later, the pandemic came into play, and stay-at-home moms and working
Dads.
and remote working is the new normal, right?
Right.
So listen, lawsuit. No, I didn't even think along those terms. I just thought about moving forward.
Yeah.
There was nothing for me to litigate. It was just a natural progression for me. It definitely was confirmation of what my husband had been saying to me for quite a couple of years at that point. You need to retire. And so it was a harsh way to actually face the reality that that's where I was. And it's always a little hard when the choices are made for you, or so you think, right?
Oh,
But what
yeah.
I
But, the
realized,
universe conspires in wonderful ways
yeah, isn't
sometimes,
that
right?
the truth? Isn't that the truth? But what I realized today is it was no mistake at all. It had to happen. It freed up quite a bit of space for me to become a entrepreneur and found Moo. So here we
Wow.
are.
And, take us through a little bit of that progression because, when you do get fired
Mhm,
or laid off, folks, whatever it is that has terminated your guaranteed paycheck, and now all of a sudden you are no longer an employee,
mhm.
and you're looking around the room and you have time to think. And, for some of us, like the ideas come flying in. How did the process come to you? Like, what was it that informed you? What was it about your lived experience that you said, I want to serve the world in this specific way? You were very clear that you wanted to be in the world. You wanted to wake up every day with passion and purpose. You are, that person. But how did you know it was going to be maternal health, motherhood, wellness? Take us through that process and the story of your journey.
Well, I was having a really hard postpartum. For me, functionality, I would say, high functioning, but depressed. And I didn't know that because I had never been there. I did know that I had signs of sleep loss, sleep regression. I had a slight bit of anxiety that I didn't know was anxiety. My
Mhm.
mind just registered it as a little bit of stress that I gave way to because I'm a new mom that doesn't sleep a lot. I started to have those things contribute to things like anemia, um, low breast milk supply, um, things that I couldn't overcome, like hair loss. I lost all of my hair. I mean, I went from curls down my back to a short pixie cut. And I didn't know what that meant. I started to seek more and more
Yeah.
advisement from my medical team because that's where you go when you're having a medical issue. But what I was met with was this very stoic conversation of that's normal. That is a rite of passage of motherhood. And, you're going to have to let this take its course and play out. Well, it
Wow.
didn't make sense for me because I had been a super clean, very strict diet eater, working out, lifting heavy weights, high cardio, 3, 4 times a week throughout my pregnancy. I had a beautiful pregnancy. I delivered at 41 weeks, a healthy baby, no issues. And now this was my outcome. It
Yeah.
just didn't make sense. And I was just a little bit too advanced medically to believe it. I
Yeah.
knew that that is not the way the kilter reads, it just doesn't work that
Well,
way.
but to accept, and to settle, I mean, you want a postpartum experience that was nurturing, not devastating, and
Yeah.
stopping you in your track and being told by people, oh, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Well, I have to tell you that I was treated by the number 3 hospital in the world during my gestation, which is Johns Hopkins. But not one time during that prenatal period did I hear the word postpartum. I didn't hear the word postpartum until the postpartum was in decline. And so I learned very much so organically through the process. But what I realized for me was that absolutely made no sense. Normal was not the right word. Common should be the word. It was common, but it wasn't normal. And that I had to do something about it. So for me, I, did naturally what we do. We go to the medical fixes for it. First, I went to reasoning. Let's hear the doctor's reasoning. Nothing there. Then I go over to medicine. Nothing there that I would want to put in my body. And then I start reaching out to these more organic forms of business and access, and nothing was there. And so I said, okay, I have to create this for myself. And that's what I did. I created what was first a recipe, because that's what you create in the kitchen, which is absolutely where I created my first batch of things. And those things were not going to be okay for the next person, but they were fine for me. We're talking about something consisting of chopping, fresh vegetables and herbs every day for every meal, and trying to incorporate that and get enough and ingest that in a heavy enough dose for it to be potent. When I realized that that worked for me, I knew automatically that if I were to produce this for other people, it would need to be something that was more considerate of their lifestyle, which would need to be easy, which would need to be something that they could commit to daily and not mind committing to daily. And so that is how we started pushing into this idea of getting this thing to market. But it
Right.
wasn't a form yet, because we didn't know what could be the possibilities there. We
And you
had to,
didn't want, yeah, and you didn't want people to be home with their veggie mix, in order to
not at
to
all.
to spin it up and make it so that they could ingest it in a way that it was meaningful.
That was me. I had an omega juicer sitting on the edge of my counter that did not move because I
Mhm.
needed it so often, but I knew that that could not be the lifestyle for every person in every home.
Right.
So we brought in scientists, we brought in researchers in a lab to help us figure out what this would look like. And it took us about a year, but we were able to bring it to market in our first form, which was a capsule. At the time that we did this, we did not know about firsts. We didn't know that we would be first to do this. We didn't know, we weren't aiming for that. We were aiming for resolving an issue that was an inequity in the maternal health sector for women who not only had my situation, but possibly had sharply less outcomes than me. I was able to access medical care. I was able to afford alternative care, but I knew that that wouldn't be the same for everyone else. And even among those accessibilities for me, I still got no health care. I didn't get the medical care I deserved. So I can only imagine what would be the case for someone else in a different situation, a different city, a different town, with different access to health care. So there started our journey as health tech owners. And we created our first product, which is now the world's first superfood postnatal.
Who would have thought? I mean, usually you're hearing plenty of information, and I think you had a diagram on your Instagram feed of all the help you get when you're pregnant, and then like one visit and that's it, you're done, when you're all done. And we have vibrant women who end up sitting on the couch. Everything's done in their home, but they're sitting in the couch staring off to space, and hours will go by. Postpartum depression shows up in different ways, but it's always a shock for someone who has not been depressed or anxious or lost their hair, something really shocking, things that happen to you physically. Usually it's like, oh, I want to get my pre-pregnancy weight back by the time the baby's 6 weeks old,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Instead, what you've done is you changed the conversation to what you did to produce this baby, and everything that your body gave this baby now needs to be turned back into, giving you what you need.
Yeah.
And, as somebody who, went through all of these incredible things, for me, I'm an extrovert, but when I'm pregnant, I'm an introvert.
Mhm.
That's how much the body is affected by pregnancy. And of course, I have morning sickness every single day. It's like I'm on a deep sea voyage spinning. And so everybody has a different pregnancy. You felt phenomenal, and you had a nice 41-week delivery. That's amazing. So then we switched to the postpartum. And this is a whole nother area. And you decided to go with vegan and superfood. So where were you pulling this information? And when you met with the scientists, what was it about the female body post pregnancy that you were trying to restore? Because again, as I mentioned, so much is given to that beautiful baby from our bodies.
Yeah. Well, we have to look at the history of the prenatal to get to our postnatal. The history of the prenatal is an aid that is a multivitamin that is given to women with higher dosages of things like choline, things like iron, things like magnesium that the body is going to need while in gestation. So we call that maternal fetal health. And the prenatal really speaks to what the baby is going to need. So it really helps that gestation period. But there's something that happens different in postpartum. The baby now has exited the body, and the body is not only recovering from one or two forms of delivery, be it a C-section or a vaginal birth, that body needs to heal. Those are both major instances that have occurred in the body. In that occurrence, the body is losing blood, and any blood loss in any situation, be it traumatic or be it, a childbirth, which could be traumatic, the body goes into an immediate shock. And so now what the body has built up and stored up for the baby is potentially lost in blood. Then you wrap in hormones, and you have to think about how the hormones are now working and adjusting to try and take the body out of the shock of losing the blood, right?
Right.
Now, that is the more visual way of thinking about childbirth, but that's not what's explained to the mom.
And can I just say, Lydia, this is the whole thing with women's health versus men's health.
Yeah.
Women's health, like, oh, she just birthed that baby. And we women need to like step up a little more too and just say that was trauma on the body. Birthing it sometimes, 30 hours in labor. Come on. It's not just always slipped out in the back seat and a police officer is delivering that baby, but also the severe hormonal swing that happens and the shock. I mean, so many things. So I just wanted to bring that up, Lydia, because I think one of the incredible benefits that you're doing here, just in this conversation and how you have these conversations with folks around the world, is bringing in women's health, women's maternal health, and stop what's the word I want? Minimizing the birth process.
Yeah.
I mean, my heart goes out. I've had a C-section. I've had a vaginal. I had no business having a vaginal since I'd had a myomectomy, but that's a different story. So many women are like, oh yeah, I was in 30 hours of labor and then I had a C-section. I'm like, oh my gosh, who took care of you after that?
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that. The toll. If you'd been in a car accident, if you'd gone through chemo, we all would have been, but because this is specific to women and birthing a baby has been downplayed for so many years.
So long.
Talk more about how you're educating folks, because I think this is just remarkable.
Well, I have to tell you that I had 2 C-sections myself. Even though I carried 41 weeks in both pregnancies, I carried big babies. My husband is 6'6". I carried huge babies in my little 5'2" frame. And what I will tell you about a C-section, for all of the listeners out there who don't really understand, is you are cut through 8 layers of your body's skin and tissue, muscle, into getting to that baby. It is one of the most severe surgeries that you can have, that has the least post-surgical restrictions. They expect you out of bed, walking around, picking up a baby, carrying a baby, doing things for the baby immediately following that C-section, with the adjustment of about 2 to 4 hours of recovery time, right? You can go and have your entire ankle replaced and have more restrictions
right
that for weeks, right? So there's a disparity there. But there is quite an incredible amount of strain on the body that birth has. And sometimes, whereas a woman is able to have a very quick labor and delivery and birth that baby vaginally and be able to what our culture calls snap back, there's still some hormonal things that happen there that's almost like punching, a half filled punching bag,
Yeah.
you're just damaged because of the way these hormones are responding to what's happened to the body. First of all, the hormones are saying, where did the baby go?
Right.
Almost like they're moving around searching for this thing. And I liken it to an ant bed. You step on an ant bed, you automatically see the ants run out of it. They're trying to figure out what the problem is, who's okay, how this thing is injured, recovering their own. That's what your hormones are doing after a baby. It's
Yeah.
trying to figure out who stepped on my ant bed, and everything is chaotic while it's doing that. Every single piece of that is running in different directions, misfiring, and figuring out what the intrusion is. And so I think if we can consider it in a visual way,
Right.
we have more empathy and understanding of what may be going on internally. And oftentimes it's going on not only internally, but silently, because the mom doesn't really know that there's an issue.
Yep.
She just knows that she feels tired. She feels, disconnected. She feels not hungry, or she's excessively eating. She feels angry. She's triggered by everything. These things show up in different ways. So it's great that you made that point of how depression shows up differently for everyone. That's just depression. We haven't
Right.
even talked about other co and morbidities that are happening during that
That's right.
time for some women as well, like sepsis or hypertension. Even some women are experiencing hemorrhaging that they have no idea they're experiencing.
That's right. And there again, it's the glorification of birthing a baby. Oh, let's do it at home and in some water. 100 years ago, women were dying left and right. The average age for women 100 years ago, folks, was 49. Why? Because they died in childbirth,
Mhm.
delivering the baby, or postpartum.
That's right.
And they had the depression, their bodies went down the tubes. It was just horrific.
Mhm.
We need to stop thinking, the next thing you know, you're nursing and life is amazing. And aren't you an amazing mother? And you're shamed if that isn't what is the result. So
Yeah.
I love that you have put a huge spotlight on this topic, Lydia, but also you are. I know I'm always shocked. Everybody, you've heard me say that. What do you mean this hasn't been figured out? What do you mean there aren't products for that out there? I mean, this is 2022, and here's Lydia, in 2000 coming up with, or 2020 coming up with this whole postpartum product line, and nothing's out there. You're the first. You're like, wait, I'm the first. I thought maybe there'd be some competition for me because I'm going to be bringing out a new branded product. Lydia, how did you get the scientists? How did you bring the whole team together? Because a lot of folks have these great ideas, especially with products, but it takes a lot to take that recipe and that idea and then make it manufacturable
Yeah.
and bring it to market in retail, And so talk about first about how you brought the team together, and then how did you find your manufacturer and co-packer and all that process, please?
I hired an advisor to help me navigate that process because I wasn't sure quite where to start myself, but I knew that I needed a manufacturing advisor. The manufacturing advisor guided me through the process of how to put the team together in order to test this prior to it going into actual bottling and packaging. And that's what you really need. Some of our manufacturers here in the US are able to take on this task themselves. A lot of them are only focused about the end product, though, so you may not get that um, that scientific approach to what you're doing. They may be more so interested in what the formulation is and how they get it from formulation to actual tangible product.
That's right.
That consumer packaged good. For us, we needed to make sure that it was breastfeeding safe. We needed to make sure that these provisions were in place because it was not going into just anybody. It was going into a mom who potentially is breastfeeding or lactating. It could potentially be then going into the baby. And so our process was just a little bit more unique when it came to the testing. That took an incredible amount of time to me. It took a little bit over a year to get everything handled and
But remember,
resolved.
you had to come up with a nutritional label. You had to say, okay, I've got what my kitchen,
Mhm.
recipe, so to speak, but now I have to do it at volume with the right
Yeah.
manufacturer, meet all the different requirements for bringing food to market. Did you hire a designer for the packaging as
I
well?
did. I did. When we first started out, this is the entrepreneurial side. So this is, we're getting there. This is the stuff that I actually really like about being a business owner because I consider myself to be of a creative mind. It really
Yay.
challenges me.
Yay.
But we did hire a designer. We used to be a gold and white packaged company. When we first started out, we were named Moo Brew. And that name came about. We've always been Moo. We've always been Moo. Moo's always stood for a mom's official objective. But I needed to figure out how to make it catchy. Social media was kind of new to me in the form of being a business on social media. So how do we make this handle catchy? And I said, I know, let's make moo rhyme with brew, right? And so we went
Good
for
idea.
it. I was like, it could work. Moms drink a lot of coffee and this could be a complete, lifestyle thing. Let's go for it. But what we realized with Moo Brew was that there is an Australian beverage packaging company named Moo Brew, and they are huge. We didn't have any problems with infringement of rights. We actually were able to trademark Moo Brew here in the US. But
Excellent.
the problem was we didn't want to be associated with something that moms absolutely could not do while breastfeeding. And so we needed to kind of revise this idea of how to repackage this product and bring it back to market in a smart way that would help us to stake more real estate, if you will. So we redesigned. We had a complete rebrand. And you can see some of that behind me
Right.
now. We went from a gold package. I actually have the gold package behind my desk somewhere. I won't dig for it. But we went from a gold package into a branded orange packet. And we took an incredible amount of time figuring it out. We wanted it to be modern, clean, clear, concise. We wanted it to be able to stake real estate if we decided to go into retail. And so we had all of these long thoughts that were a part of that design process. It wasn't just about the present because we didn't want to redo it again. We
Right.
wanted to only iterate this packaging one time, And so that's what we did. We created this system that is developed with a really amazing logo that also says Moo if you look at the breakdown of the logo. And so it's really unique. We had some amazing designers that are abroad that this is what they do. They create brands. They create and have created amazing brands that you and I use every day. I won't name them. That you and I
and
see
and
at the
and
very
packaging, and so you have to meet your consumers'
That's right.
expectations of what packaging should look like. You don't want
That's
to be
right.
too out there, so you got to make sure everything's looking and feeling. And what happened to Lydia, folks, and to her team is what we like to call here at the Startup Life Live Show a switcheroo, a change, a reversal. And it happens, and it's so important that we stay flexible for that to happen because again, you were never a founder. This was your first time. You thought initially this is what it would look like. And I love that you went back to the drawing board and said, we could do better. And let's up our game and let's meet our consumers' expectations. Let's meet our expectations and let's brand the heck out of this product because guess what? You were the only one doing it. Why not? Why not really, since you're going to be such a leader in this industry, take it to the next level? And I love that, Lydia.
Thank you. I think what has to be the initial thought that's really hard to do as a new business owner because you have all these dreams, you have an idea of how you want it to be, how you want it to look. But what you have to be willing to do is to look at the company that you really admire and look at how many times they may have iterated their packaging, how many times they rebranded, what they actually came up with, Then you need to actually go to the place that you see your product being sold if you are in consumer packaged goods. What do the packages look like there? Are they crowded? Are they highly artistic and graphical? Or are you moving down a road of something that you personally like, but your long term audience won't identify with?
Right.
And that was an issue for us. The gold is me. Every day I have a gold lamp on my desk. I love gold. I said, let's put gold on the packaging. But you know what gold translated to for our packaging? Luxury.
Oh,
This is not a luxury product. It's not out of reach. It's highly accessible. It's for everyone. We had gold, big gold lettering. It was just something that did not work for the global audience that we desired to attract. It also gave a distinct separation from us being for everyone. Everyone can afford this. Everyone should have this, to it being an elite product. And we didn't want that. So the goal was the first thing that needed to go for us. Beyond figuring out what it looked like, the goal had to go. Not to mention, just a FYI, if you are photographing metallic gold, everything reflects on it.
yeah.
So it's really hard to photograph. It's incredibly hard to get a really nice picture with those gold, metallic gold letters on your product. So that's
Um,
just a pro tip.
I listen, that's a great pro tip, and I'm having an Andy-licious moment, everyone. Your self-awareness, Lydia, is so wonderful. And I love this story, Something Fierce, because you said, like, those colors I love, right? I had the same thing with one of my other businesses, but I did a little focus group, and they came back with a completely different color thing. This is what you did. You stepped back and said, we want to be here long term. What is that? What does that need to look like, feel like? What's our brand promise? Is our brand promise, which, folks, is the emotional delivery of your mission to everyone. It's what you're going to promise on how you make them feel and the results you're bringing them. And you did a brilliant job with M.O.O. Congratulations. Where's my?
Yeah. Yay! Thank
And it
you.
was worth it, and this is okay. Folks, you don't have to launch and scale. This is an RX bar, okay? And I don't know if you know the story behind RX bar, Lydia, but those guys developed it for their, muscle, lifting for workout places.
Yeah.
They scaled it in 3 years and sold it for $1 bajillion. Folks,
Love it.
sometimes it doesn't move that quickly. It's
Yeah,
okay if you're going to spend time and be thoughtful the way Lydia and her team are with M.O.O. I just love it. And Ruth is saying, I'm learning so much about branding right now. Yay.
Yeah.
Ruth is our community manager, and she is from Nairobi, Kenya, and she's a mom herself as well. And Cindy has a big honking comment here, and I'm just going to say thank you, Cindy. I'm going to put it up so folks can read it. But she's right. All research and product service development should be done for both men and women. 51% of the human population is not a niche market, in the sense that so much research is done based on men, not women. And even like you'll be at a table with men and women, and someone will say, well, what do women need to know? And still a man's going to answer that question if you don't dive in soon enough. So I love what you're doing. And how have you funded this whole process? Because, folks, you've heard me say it many times. I do love a product-based company. I love all that inventory deliciousness, but still it's capital intensive in the beginning.
That's
Were
right.
you able to, bootstrap with your own funding, or did you bring in other folks to help?
Yeah, we are 100% bootstrapped. We are privately backed to this day. We have goals in mind. We have things in mind, but we're still early. Even having been in the game for going on 5 years, we are still early. We have moved through an incredible pandemic that has caused major supply chain issues. And we're not the only company that's done that. And so this idea for growth and
Scaling,
just growth and expansion doesn't happen the way you want it to happen when you can't reach the things you want to reach. And so we have had to overcome that. I would say that it's likened to having tenureship, but needing to kind of accomplish a few things before you're able to really cash in on that. For us, we had a plan just like anyone else does, and the pandemic hit. And so we now are still in our startup phase, which I actually love. I
Yeah,
love the startup phase of a company. I think it's incredibly creative, and there's so much that comes out of that before you have to say, like, this is final. We can't
that's right.
deviate from this, you
Yeah.
know?
Innovation happens and you gave yourself
Yeah.
the space and place to, figure things out. And did you build community around that? Did you have a Facebook page? Did you go right, did you do direct to consumer on your website? How did you reach your customers?
Yeah, we are and have been direct to consumer from the inception of the company. We do have social following there as well. We realized that a lot of our moms are on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And so we wanted to reach out to them that way. But we are D2C. And we've loved being D2C. What we've realized that we want to overcome is accessibility for D2C has a little bit of a delay when we're talking about logistics. So for our D2C people, if you're selling critical products, you have to consider what that time span looks like of conveying from fulfillment or wherever your packaging is to the actual customer's hand. And so that has to be considered for our company as well. How do we reduce those times? How do we promise and guarantee those times? What makes sense for the forward movement of the company? And so that's
Oh,
what
I
we.
love how your brain works, Lydia. You are systems and procedures.
Oh, I appreciate that. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know
I
that I've heard that.
no, I'm feeling it. And also you have to make sure that you're meeting margins, right? Because your margins are everything with a product company. How are you managing inventory in that pesky challenge of we hate your product, we're returning it? Maybe that's not happened for you, which is fine. But talk a little bit about the inventory, turnover and returns that
Yeah.
products often have to face.
Yeah, absolutely. So during the pandemic, we had to completely change our return policy because of the delicacy and the
Yes.
quarantines that were happening even within our fulfillment center. We could not accept anything back. So, how do we navigate that? What we did was we put a system in place called Route Shipping Protection. You may have heard of it. You've probably checked out somewhere online and seen it. It's an insurance for your products so that when a damage, when a lost or stolen package, happens or occurs with the customer process, this process then takes that package and says, we're going to insure it. So we are going to send you the money for the loss while you ship out a new product to them. So what you're only losing there is your margin for that unit. You're not losing the cost of the goods sold. And so this really is helpful for a D2C business.
Oh my gosh, that's outstanding. Thank you for spotlighting that, Lydia.
You need this. You need this. It took us a while to figure it out. We couldn't figure it out immediately, but thank God for Route. Route is available for companies, that are selling $0 to a gazillion dollars daily.
Right.
It's something that you really want to have as a part of your direct to consumer business, especially if you have a audience, a target audience, if you will,
Yeah.
that could vary on results. For us, our target audience is postpartum moms.
Yeah.
Our moms are emotional. They are in critical need of things. They are scared, and some of them need just a little bit of caretaking. To provide to provide the service for them is such a relief when a package is stolen off of their front door. Now, you and I both know, as the business owner, that's not our problem, right?
Right.
But we want to make it our problem in the sense
Yeah.
of how do we fix it for you without
Right.
losing the cost of that good sold again, right?
Yeah.
So, Route helps to do that. You file a simple claim with Route, literally in just a couple of hours. Route is connected to our store. Route will place another order for that person. You don't
Oh.
have to lift a finger. You
And
don't
now
have to.
customer experience is so happy, a wonderful thing too.
Yeah, they get their product right back and it's easy peasy. And for us, we don't see that heavy loss at the end of the day because we've had to return 5 products that the Postal Service marked as delivered, but they were stolen, broken, lost, or just didn't come at all.
I love
Yeah.
this resource, Something Fierce. I'm going to put the links into the show notes, folks, so you can
Yes.
go and explore route. And I'm seeing an opportunity too to begin educating moms while they're pregnant
Yeah.
about the postpartum journey, that their body needs nutrition. And perhaps they'd like to be using Moo to help them get the nutrition they need and to remind them that, you don't want to scare, especially those first time moms, that it is hard in the body, but to be objective and honest about the fact that if you broke a leg, you would be taking care of yourself. You just birthed a baby, which is much more traumatic on the body. Let's get you into shape, not just down to your pre-pregnancy weight. And we're talking about the whole body, the holistic shape. Are you putting into any action that type of marketing?
That is 100% what our foundation is. Education has to precede the actual tangible good for us, especially in a market where people had never heard of a postnatal. What the heck is a postnatal? My doctor said to take a prenatal, or can I take these two together? That's a question that we get often. Education is foundational for us. Everything that we do is based off of education, science-backed research, studies, publications, medical guides. All of those things are a part of what we do. Our messaging is clear and concise, but also our research is as well. Foundational evidence of why we use elderberry in a product or goat's rue is very important. We have to think about, for me, the mindset of my shopper, and for anyone else who has a target audience. What's the mindset of your shopper? Well, moms head right over to Google to search for everything and answer for everything. What we wanted to do was to ease that process for them. So our goal is to remain a transparent company. If you visit our website, you'll see exactly what I mean. Everything that we have put into a product is listed there, even down to the wrapper on our tea being a PLA bag. That means it's free of all traces of any chemicals or plastic on that bag, because we deal with hormones. So we can't be putting plastic into your body, Everything that we do is transparent, and it starts with education. We even had the nerves. I don't want to call them the balls, but we even had the nerves to list the possible warnings and contraindications for every ingredient, because we realize that we are dealing with moms who may have comorbidities, meaning that they entered into childbirth already having a pre-existing condition, no matter what it was, gestational diabetes, arrhythmia, or whatever it is, right? We understand that those things could considerably affect the way that you're able to supplement your journey in postpartum. So we want you to know, before you check out with us, to look at the ingredients in your product and to see if any of these warnings relate to you. If you're on a blood thinner, which is very common in the mom community, if you're on a blood thinner, then here are some things that you should know about this ingredient before you ever get to what the product does for you. And so that's something that we stand on very strongly. We write even that way in our articles and blogs. Everything's highly informative, educational, and science based. We think
I love that. Oh yeah, no, and that in that you are honoring the fragility, of the human body, and understanding that we're not all in the same dish of how we're made. Every body is reacting to things differently. And gosh, seriously, it's so honoring of the female journey and her body, postpartum and even prepartum. Cindy's asking a great question. Will there be puberty and menopause line?
I love the way you're thinking, Cindy. So for us, menopause is a part of postpartum, as a lot of postpartum triggers menopause. And Andy and I were having this conversation. There is a certain process of postpartum called postpartum induced menopause. And what that simply means is that your estrogen has tanked so low that the body is performing as it would in menopause. The difference there is that you can overcome this if your body's not actually ready to full on be menopausal, you actually can come out of that period. Those hormones can rebalance, and you won't see menopause until you have another baby or until your body's time clock says it's
It's
time,
time.
right? So we do already acknowledge a lot of our menopause. Our uterine T really focuses on estrogen dominance and the conditions of the uterus and toning the uterus to help navigate through that portion of a woman's journey through postpartum. Puberty, I would love to see things that are focused more on kids as well. I think that for us, it's not exactly in our foresight. We have such an incredible journey for postpartum to still overcome that there's so much work to do. I don't know that we'll be able to look left or right of that for quite some time, if ever, to be very honest.
Right.
I think where we can provide information that may be possible, but products, I don't foresee it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that answer. And Mia is saying, we have the nerves. Yes, that's fabulous transparency.
Yeah.
100%. And, whenever Mia swings by, folks, what do? We pop up her wonderful podcast, Shit We Don't Talk About with Mia Voss. Go to shitwedon'ttalkaboutpodcast.com and hear some conversations like we're having today about postpartum. That is definitely shit we don't talk about, right,
Yeah.
Mia? And right, Lydia? I mean, we
That's
need
so
to
right.
have those.
Listen, uterus is a dirty word these days, honey, and I don't know why, but I say it as often as I can in the course of a day.
Absolutely. Well, women are starting to really take ownership, and just like men will, give me the ball, women are like, give me the uterus. We are
Yeah.
talking about it, and we are protecting ourselves, and we are amplifying women's health. And you are really leading the charge on this. It's just amazing. What does success look like for you as you move your beautiful business forward? What would make your heart sing and feel really great to you for success?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it moves daily, if not weekly, for us. I don't think that we would be growing if it stayed the same. So I would say from week to week, it could change. I think for us, success is going to be today, ensuring that we offer a comprehensive guide for recovering from postpartum. I think that that's going to be general across the board, no matter how we're aiming for that. Of course, if we're talking about consumer packaged goods, then that would mean more products, more information, more accessibility to those products, and that would be successful. But that wouldn't be enough for me. I told you at the beginning of our call that I'm driven by challenge. So I'm one of those people that creates work for myself in a good way, though. Just as soon as the dust clears, I'm already thinking about a new project. So I would say that today's success is completing a comprehensive um, guide, a comprehensive, tangible product for our customers. But tomorrow, it's going to be creating something that's a little bit more handheld, purse carried, pocket held. And for us, that's our new project, which is at Motherosity.
And folks, you can see it right here at Motherosity on the banner going down at the bottom. Go follow Motherosity on Instagram.
Motherosity is a project that we are starting to tease just a little bit. And we haven't started to quite talk about it. So I won't give full on detail. My team would be really upset if I did. But I think you should follow and you should see what we're up to. We are going to be creating yet another aid for postpartum moms, families, and maternal health specialists.
Great.
So for practitioners, specialists, doulas, midwives, anybody in that community will be a part of this project.
I am so excited about that. And I always like to bring in Brent Manuel. He's from Ottawa, Canada. He focuses on diversity and disability in the workplace. So especially our neurodivergent folks. And he always likes to swing by to make sure we're talking about it and keeping the conversation. And so how diverse is your company?
I would say that, thank you. I would say right now we are a company that services 1 to 10 staff members. I know those ranges are always important. We have 6 of those 10 people that are international persons. We have let's see, 1, 2, 3. Let's count the men. We have 3 men out of the 10.
So the rest are
We-
female. We
yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
We have mostly female here. We have
Excellent.
three males that work for the team, and we have. I don't know that we have any disclosed disabilities, but we are
And we all
disability
understand that. A lot of
friendly
folks,
company.
are dealing with neuro or, things
Yeah,
that you can't see, hidden disabilities like
yeah,
lupus and things like
yeah.
that.
That's why I
And
said disclosed, because I
yeah.
know that people deal with things on their own. Yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you, Brent, for always coming by and keeping us on our toes and aware about accessibility in our startups. So important. Lydia, you've been an entrepreneur now for about 5 years, right?
That's
How
right.
has this journey served you both personally and professionally?
Personally, I have more grays than I thought I would have at 40. I also never knew that I could function on 4 to 5 hours of sleep. Um, I personally just try to keep a good skincare routine,
There
because
we go.
sometimes you can't avoid the sunken in dark eyes. Okay, let's be honest. Personally, um, those are surface things, but personally, it's definitely fulfilled a necessity for me to be a part of the recovery plan for women in postpartum. And whether that had been tangible goods, consumer packaged goods, or just being a part of the conversation, I would have taken both.
Yeah.
We didn't know that it would be this when we started it, right? So now, personally, the goal is to not drop the ball. And what I mean by that is there are other things that we need during this journey. And my goal is to personally provide them. For business, business has been an incredible journey of insight, compassion, flexibility, and growth that I did not know that I wanted.
Yeah.
Of course I could be those things, but I did not know that I wanted those things. But when you're dealing with an audience that's so unique, they're strong but they're fragile. They are aware but they're unaware, and they have all of these nuances that you and I may understand, having had kids already, that they may not understand. It makes the work incredibly sensitive, but incredibly necessary for us to consider what the process looks like on the other side,
Yeah.
and closing those gaps for people, and not just in a tangible way, but in an emotional way. And so that's what we aim to do. I think our new project, Motherosity, speaks a lot to that, closing those voids that products, tangible, ingested products, do not fill.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And I am so glad that life tapped you because you are uniquely qualified to be in this role. You are clearly deeply passionate about the recovery process and for women having birthed babies. What does that look like? How do we restore our hearts, minds, and souls to, back into our womanhood,
Yeah.
as well as really honoring our motherhood journey? I am so grateful that you're out there advocating and educating and leading as a woman in healthcare and motherhood wellness, maternal health, but also in just women's health. We just need more women like you out there speaking up and really showcasing and spotlighting such an important part of our journey as women.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Thank you for
Well,
having me.
thank you for being on the show. Any last thoughts to founders before I pop you into the green room?
Get over shit quick, okay?
Hold on, everybody. You know what I got to do with this one? That is absolutely a stitch that on a pillow. Get over shit quick, people. You got to be
Do it.
adaptable as a
Keep it
founder. Oh
moving.
my gosh, Lydia, that is so wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for your wisdom and your wonderful presence today on this show. I'm going to pop you over here and get to wrap up with everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'm so grateful for your presence as well. We learned so much from Lydia today, and for the men tuning in. Remember, women's health is so important, and as a partner in a spouse's or your partner's birthing of babies, I hope that you haven't had an increased awareness yourselves about this journey and are more honoring as well. I know a lot of guys practically pass out in the delivery room, but still, and you probably have more of an appreciation for what your darling's going through than what we women do, in my opinion. But anyway, let me tell you who's coming up next on the Startup Life live show. Boy, if you haven't seen Eric Shu yet, he is remarkable and he is everywhere helping folks become the best digital marketers out there. But Eric is an investor, founder, and advisor to companies, and he's on a mission to empower folks to level up their game both professionally and personally. And I know we're going to tap and squeeze out every piece of advice that this dynamic founder has to share. He's had a wonderful digital marketing company for a decade now, I think, Single Grain, and he is really into NFTs now. And I'm sure many of you have seen him with Neil Patel. He's a remarkable founder. I'm so excited to have him on the show. And until next time, Richard, thank you for coming by and sharing your claps. You're amazing podcast producer right there, folks. If you ever need someone to produce your podcast. And Ruth, where would I be without you? She's right. We have to keep moving. All right, folks, until next time, I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. And I am in awe and wonder of you and celebrating you for having the courage to launch your business and show up for it every single day and to tap into your unique capabilities that are continuing to bring your business forward. And remember, you always win when you launch a business, no matter what happens. I'm a firm believer of that. All right, until next time, take it easy, be gentle with yourself, and I'll see you next time. Mwah. Shake it easy. Bye.